Now that I've been both in civil society and worked in and led NGOs, been with my husband in the White House, served as an elected official in the United States Senate from New York, and now working with President Obama, I know how difficult this work is. But it is great work that even if you never think about politics much at all, should be a calling to you as a citizen. Ukraine matters not just to Ukrainians. Ukraine matters to the world, because there are so many opportunities for Ukraine to assume a position of prominence and influence in the region, in Europe, and even beyond. An open, innovative Ukraine has much to offer. When I look at the students who graduate from this institute and know that you are among the best in the world, I see limitless possibilities. And the world is looking to you to secure your democracy, grow your economy, deepen your integration with Europe, and create the conditions that will allow you and every Ukrainian citizen to make the most of your God-given potential. The United States wants to be your partner. The Foreign Minister and I are chairing a Strategic Partnership Commission, and we held our second meeting today, and later this year we'll have the third meeting in Washington. We are deepening our collaboration on a range of issues, from economic reform and the promotion of trade and investment, to the modernization of Ukraine's energy sector, to expanding opportunities for education, for health, for women, even to defense cooperation. And we're working together on an issue where Ukraine is already a leader, nuclear non-proliferation. And we're looking for ways to harness the experience and expertise of Ukrainians to help solve global challenges like hunger and food insecurity. Our cooperation with Ukraine is very important to the United States and to the Obama administration. And we look for ideas that come not just from the government-to-government interaction, but the people-to-people contacts that this town hall represents. Because we know that it is not, in the end, our governments that discover the solutions to the problems we face, but it is within an open society the work of individual citizens who challenge conventional thinking, who work through the solutions that are necessary for progress. For example, we look forward to working with Ukraine to develop an investment climate that will encourage the kind of cutting-edge energy projects that will give Ukraine energy independence. That's why it's particularly important that in democracies, whether they be 234 years old or 19 years old, that we never lose sight of the values and core freedoms that protect and promote democracy and reform. Freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom to petition governments, to assemble, to participate in the political sphere. These are not just afterthoughts. These are not just enshrined in our Declaration of Independence or the Human Rights Declaration. These are absolutely the right and the property of each individual. I've discussed the importance of defending these rights with your president, and he has made a commitment to uphold Ukraine's democracy, to strengthen the rule of law, to maintain a strong respect for human rights. During his visit to the Council of Europe on April 27th, President Yanukovych said very clearly that the rule of law cannot exist in Ukraine unless corruption is eradicated and comprehensive judicial reform is implemented. He also spoke out against the intimidation of journalists. Now, the United States applauds these statements, and we welcome these commitments, but we recognize that rhetoric alone does not change behavior. These statements need to be followed up with concrete actions. And we have said very clearly to the Ukrainian government that we will help to make sure that these values and freedoms are protected. It's important, too, that we look at how to promote broadly based prosperity. You know, one of the problems in societies around the world today is that too much of the productivity of the economies are going to too few. Too few people, the political and economic elite, are realizing the vast majority of benefits from economic activity. It's true in my own country, where unfortunately economic inequality is increasing. And it's true in Ukraine, it's true in Europe and Asia and Africa and South America. So part of the challenge of economic growth and prosperity is to make sure it gets down and equally spread among people. And we have to work toward spurring investment and long-term growth in Ukraine, and we have to work together to end corruption in both the public and the private sectors. I know that having been elected to office and having run for president, that when it comes to motivating democratically elected officials, there is no force more powerful than citizens who refuse to accept the status quo, who insist that measurable progress be made. Here in Ukraine, you have a powerful asset, a strong, courageous civil society. Women who have banded together to rescue victims of human trafficking, people fighting for the rights of the disabled, students and grandparents, men and women who have devoted so much of their lives to protecting human rights, to fighting diseases like HIV/AIDS, to protecting the environment, to creating a more open and accountable society. I just met with a group of representatives of civil society groups that are working here in Ukraine. And I will say to you what I said to them: do not get discouraged, do not lose heart, do not stop now. Because building a strong democracy is not a job for other people, it is really a job for each of us. And even though it is difficult, the challenges of our age are great, but they are not greater than the challenges Ukraine faced in the past. Ukraine has overcome so much. I think often about my parents and grandparents who had to struggle so hard to give me the opportunities that I had to get a great education, to be able to make decisions that my mother could never even have dreamed of. So I feel that I owe a lot to my country. Those of you at this great institute of learning owe a lot to your country, because you have been given a first-class, world-class education. And so therefore a lot is expected of you. I'm very optimistic, as is my nature. I believe that we face a great threat from extremism around the world, from those who would turn the clock back on education, on women, on the modern advances that we take advantage of. I, for one, will do everything I can to bring together European civilization, Americans, and like-minded people around the world who will work for a better future and against the forces of disintegration. Ukraine has a very important role to play in that. Because of your history, because of your geography, you are uniquely positioned to play that role. And I know that as you go forward in making whatever choices are best for you and your own families, that whatever contribution you can make to Ukraine's future will come back to benefit you and future generations. And as you make those choices, I want you to know that the United States, the Obama administration, and the American people are cheering you on and standing with you. Thank you very much.